So, hopefully by now you've chosen your fonts for your hypnotherapy brand, and I know you feel a bit restricted by only choosing 2 to 3 fonts. But there's lots and lots of different things you can do with those 2 to 3 fonts. So I'm just going to give you a few examples of how you could use those fonts in different ways so they can look quite different. I've picked two really nice fonts here. So we've got one body font, which is Red Hat Display. So I've got it in capital letters and in lowercase letters. And then I've got the Seasons, which I've chosen as the header font, again in capitals and lowercase letters. There's lots of things, like I say, that you can do with these fonts now. You've chosen them. So don't feel restricted. Just have a little play about with them, combine them together in different ways and see what you want to use for which type of application. So whether you want to use a particular way of combining the fonts for your social media posts or in blog posts or in other communications that you might do, such as workbooks and things like that. So let's just have a play around. So first of all, I'll just run down some of the things that you could change about these fonts to make them a bit different. So you can change the size. So the size in relation to each other. So for example, let me just show you. Let's take a copy of this over here. So if you make that bigger and then you say, right, I'm going to use the Red Hat Display font. Actually, I'm going to make that really, really small so you can see. That's one way you could do it. Another way, so let's do it the other way around. So let's take Red Hat Display, make that bigger. We can bold it if we want. And then we can use maybe this one, make it really smaller. So you can see exactly the same fonts, but those two uses of the fonts look really different, don't they? So let's just clear that off. So that's just playing around with the size. Another thing that you can do is play around with the hierarchy. So we did do that a little bit then because we bolded one of the fonts. But again, so let's say even just using the same font a couple of times. So let's use Red Hat Display a couple of times here. The hierarchy is really about which bit of it is most important. Where does your eye go first? So if we use those two and then maybe this one underneath. And then we bold that one. So in terms of hierarchy, where your eye is drawn to first is probably this bold Red Hat Display. So you've made that sort of bigger in hierarchy because you've bolded it. So you've made it much more noticeable. Then probably your eye is going to go here and then to this bit of text here. So you don't read things top to bottom when you see typography like this. Your eye gets drawn to one particular element first and then you look at the other elements. So you can play around with the hierarchy like that. So let's clear those ones off. Another thing that you could do is mess around with the spacing. So let's take this one over here, make that a bit bigger. And then let's take this, make it quite small. But then if we space it out, so to space it out, you go up to here, you use this spacing, and then you click the slider. So we're going to space that right the way out. So you can see that looks quite different from how we had it before. And spacing things out gives them a bit more of a luxurious feel. So where you've got more space, more white space around things, that tends to denote more upmarket, more luxury. So doing things differently in terms of spacing is quite an interesting thing to do differently as well. Equally, we could space this one out. So let's we might want to squeeze that one down actually. So there you go. There's another thing you can do. You can squeeze it down or space it out. In terms of other things that we might want to do, you can use special effects. So let's just take Let's take this one again. Let's pull it over here. If you go up to effects up here, you can make this text hollow. So there you go. That makes it look quite different again. Again, you can pull another font in here. Another effect that you can use is to curve the text. So yeah, lots of different ways that you can mess around. Even though they are only two texts, there's lots of different things that we've done with those two texts, aren't there? So let me just give you a couple of other examples so you can look at them all side by side. So I think the key thing really is just to, once you've chosen your body text and you've chosen your header text, is just to start to play with them really, because you can find out lots of different ways that you'll be able to use them. So let me just put this in here. Oops. So you can see lots of different ways you can use the text. They're all side by side there, and they look quite different, don't they? So you can play around, choose which ways you want to use it. But if you're using these two texts and keeping those texts consistent, even though you're using them in different ways and making them look quite different for different applications, you've still got that consistency and you've still got that that same feel across all of the different things you're using them for. So just wanted to show you that two fonts is not restrictive and you can play around with them, do lots of fun things.